Threat hunting often stalls when analysts must manually stitch context across disconnected data, endpoint, and web security tools. While SIEMs offer centralized visibility, they are frequently sidelined by high costs, complexity, and heavy staffing requirements. Symantec CBX solves this by unifying telemetry into a single console with a single agent, which allows you to trace alerts to their root cause instantly. Note that while this demo shows the full attack chain for visibility, enabling prevention policies would have blocked the threat from the initial stage, and this demo would have been very short. Our data analyst opens CBX and finds a high-severity DSPM alert indicating a sensitive file, in this case CC Transaction Audit February 2026, was uploaded to cloud storage. This activity occurred on HR server. At first glance, this could look like negligent insiders uploading a file to a cloud storage location. The details change the story. The file move is initiated by a parent process named SVC host, and it was flagged as known malware, and it was executed through PowerShell, which is not normal. There are additional red flags that we see here, such as SVC host should not be running from C:/file shared data. Data security has given us the signal that sensitive data moved. Endpoint security is showing the intent. To validate, we pivot to events to triage from multiple sources. Here we see endpoint, web, and data telemetry in one searchable timeline with dynamic filters. Our analyst does a quick review looking for data security related events tied to that file by filtering on the file name and in the time range the event occurred. We see a timeline of events related to this file. We can see when the file was added to the cloud storage. We see that it was PowerShell running in the user context that moved the file, and it was executed by SVC host. We can also see that the file was deleted roughly 15 minutes later. This behavior suggests that this could have been programmatically done, and there was an attempt to cover tracks. Here we see the event has already been added to an investigation. We can also confirm the upload destination is Microsoft OneDrive, and the effective user is Kim Chung. What initially looked like simple malware is now looking like a larger incident. From the event, we can pivot directly by clicking the investigation button. Targeted Attack Analytics has already correlated this activity with hundreds of alerts and events. There has been zero manual stitching and no cross-console pivoting. We've moved from detection to investigation immediately, and the next step guidance points us to Threat Tracer to review the full attack sequence. Threat Tracer visualizes the full scope of the attack. Based on the initial alert, we might assume that HR server is the problem. When we hover over HR server, we see that this is not only the second compromised host, but ransomware was deployed. This was not in the original alert. A data security alert in isolation could have led to a different conclusion. Also note that the tooltip context is AI generated to help the analysts understand the entities quickly. Looking at the first SVC host, we can see that it is a legitimate process launching WMI. Looking at the second SVC host, we can see that it is malware that is masquerading as a legitimate process and, in context, is spawning multiple malicious commands through PowerShell. Next, we hover over Win1103, which turns out to be the initial point of compromise in which lateral movement likely occurred. Instead of manually tracing every edge in the graph, let's use our AI analysis. Here, the attack chain is translated into plain language. This gives the analyst a concise narrative of what happened and lets us jump directly to specific areas of interest with the highlight button. For the sake of time, we won't cover every node in the graph. Clicking the first highlight button takes us to the relevant point in Threat Tracer and flashes the associated entities. Through data collected by Web Security, we've learned that the attack originated from user John Richards on Win1103, and the payload was downloaded and executed from nightgatelabs.net. As mentioned, this demo could have been short because Web Security could have potentially blocked the website via reputation filtering or the malware in transit. After the code was downloaded and executed, it began beaconing with a C2 server, also identified by web security. We can also see that MS Teams is a malware process masquerading as a legitimate application. We now know there are 2 rogue processes on the network. Here we see credential dumping, which may be a precursor to lateral movement. We can see that procdump was downloaded from sysinternals, a legitimate website, which is exactly why multi-source context matters. A safe site can still deliver tooling used in malicious activity. This is the point where MS Teams was renamed to SVC Host and moved to HR Server. It is also confirmed to be using compromised credentials of Kim Chung. At this point, we now know we have at least 2 users impacted. And this brings us back to the OneDrive exfiltration of the CSV file in the beginning. This was provided by our data security telemetry. Finally, we see the execution of the Akira ransomware in HR Server. In the beginning, what looked like a data exfiltration alert was actually the final step before a double extortion ransomware attack. In Entities and Remediation, we see every involved entity and the actions available to take control of the breach. Depending on the entity type, an analyst can take action such as quarantining a device, initiating a live response, blocking a domain, or denying a file hash. You may have also noticed that some of these actions surfaced in the context of the alerts and events. This allows the analyst to take action as they are working, not just at the end of an investigation. The AI-generated summary provides a natural language write-up of the investigation. The summary reorganizes the attack chronologically so the analyst can understand how it unfolded. It also captures key observations, scope, and recommended remediation actions, which is useful both as an analyst checklist and as a starting point for management reporting. Unified visibility across behavior and context transforms response from reactive to strategic. By integrating endpoint, web, and data telemetry into CBX, we can trace the entire attack chain to its root cause in a single console, no SIM required. If we see it, we can investigate it in context and immediately act. And with enforcement enabled, we can block it.